Here's the thing. An abandonment wound from childhood will result in an insecure attachment style. You either shut down completely and don't let anybody into your life, or you become incredibly anxious and you hold on too tight, or maybe a combination of both. At the end of the day, it results in an inability to maintain healthy long-term relationships because they're just too complicated for you. They're emotionally exhausting for you and for whoever you end up with. Another way that abandonment wounds affect your life is that you are probably someone who is very bad at picking the right partners. You choose people who have some kind of a problem. You choose people that you deem as safe because there's something wrong, okay? So they're emotionally unavailable. Maybe they're alcoholics. Maybe they have some other kind of addiction. Maybe they are unfortunate in some other area. They're not financially stable. You choose partners that have some kind of flaw because it makes you feel safe. You think this person is never going to leave me because they have this wound or this flaw. So I'm more emotionally safe with them. And at the end of the day, what happens is that you're actually less emotionally safe with them because, let's face it, someone who's an alcoholic, for example, is not a safe partner, is not a safe, emotionally available partner. So it ends up really damaging your adult relationships when you have abandonment wounds. So let's look at abandonment wounds. They come in all shapes and sizes, okay? And some of them are very, very severe, and some of them are less severe. And the more severe the abandonment wound, the more damaged you are as a result of it. An abandonment wound can, for example, be the obvious, a parent abandoning a child completely, not being present, for example, an alcoholic parent who isn't able to be present. It can also be a narcissistic parent or someone who has some kind of mental health problem that makes it so that they cannot be there for you, either physically or emotionally. It can be a parent who gets sent to jail. It can be anything that would make a child feel abandoned by the adults that were supposed to be its caregivers. But abandonment wounds can also be smaller wounds. It can be a parent who showed up every day, who put food on the table, who drove you to school, but he or she was emotionally unavailable, completely stuck in their own little world. Maybe your parent had complex PTSD or something else that made it so that they couldn't really be present there with you. They couldn't be there for you when you had big emotions. So you learned that there's not really emotional intimacy to be had with the people in your life. That's also another form of abandonment. So it's just to give you a couple of examples of abandonment, because it doesn't always look the same way, and it doesn't always look as it would be portrayed in some kind of prototype example. So it's pretty complicated. You can also have a parent who was super present with you for the first 7 years of your life, but then suddenly your parents got divorced and you only saw your dad every second weekend, or your dad found someone else and forgot about you and created a new family. It can be many things, to be honest with you. I myself have an abandonment wound, so I know what I'm talking about here from personal experience. And it does create problems. It really does. Because there is a kind of core safety in relationships in the world that's missing. Because once you've experienced that what you thought was given can be taken away from you, that you can't trust the people that you were supposed to trust the most in your life, then a certain fear creeps in. And you either shut down and become avoidant in your attachment style, or almost a little bit narcissistic as a survival strategy, getting into a mind space of, I'm alone in this world, so I got to take care of me, because no one else will. Or you become, like I said, extremely clingy and dependent on other people, and you become a total people pleaser who'll do anything to keep your partner friends, etc. close to you. You will just completely abandon yourself in order to just stay in the relationship. And then there's the third insecure attachment style, which is the fearful avoidant, which is a bit of a mix of both, okay? So that means that on one hand, you do have access to wanting close connection with other humans, but when it gets too close, you get very scared and then you push away. So you're anxious avoidant, anxious avoidant, anxious avoidant. So that's the most complicated attachment style actually to have. It's the most complicated attachment style to heal for many reasons. But of course it can be healed. And abandonment wounds can be healed as well. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that whatever you experienced in childhood is ever going to completely feel great when you think about it or go away. I think it's something you live with. It's something you learn to handle, and it's something you learn to live with. It's like living grief. Okay, you have to grieve that certain things happen to you. Is it going to make it all okay? No, because it wasn't okay. So it's not going to make it all okay, but you can get to a place in your life where you've worked through whatever happened to you and really looked at yourself with a professional or through your own self-development work, where you get to a place where you can move on and choose to live a life where you let other people in little by little. You shouldn't let just anybody in, but where you can start showing up in the world as yourself, neither being too anxious or too avoidant towards other people. Trauma is complicated. Abandonment is so complicated. And of course, your default in a high pressure situation, your default will probably always be to go to whatever behavior made you feel safe when you were younger and you were abandoned. But at least when you have the knowledge, you can kind of re-regulate yourself into a place so you don't end up sabotaging your relationships completely. Because the thing about these attachment styles is that even if you do manage to find a partner who isn't damaged in one way or another, like we talked about before, because you probably pick a lot of damaged partners, but let's say you pick someone who isn't, you might end up sabotaging the relationship anyway. And we don't want that, right? So what we want is healthy, happy relationships that are long lasting so we can build families and be happy, and or maybe not build families, like whatever you want in your life. But I'm sure you do want some kind of connection to other people and possibly someone, a life partner, to share your experience here with. As you can hear, abandonment wounds lead to a lot of suffering, a lot of misery. There are many ways to work through it. You have to face it. As long as you run away from it, you're going to keep repeating the same patterns that you've been repeating your whole life. You're going to keep ending up in relationships that ultimately aren't good for you, or you're going to sabotage the relationships that are good for you, because trauma attracts trauma. That's the thing. So the more healed you are, the more healed people you'll be able to attract into your life and actually get a real connection with. If you've been abandoned in childhood, just know that it wasn't your fault, because that's the thing. Kids, they think it's their fault. They don't have the understanding, the nuanced understanding of why things happen as they do, especially if they're under 7 years old, right? So it wasn't your fault. You didn't choose to come into this world with whoever your parents are. Your parents chose to have you. And so if they weren't able to take that responsibility on, that's on them. It's not on you. So all you can really do now is to make sure that you heal as much as possible for future generations. And if you don't want to have kids, then just for your friends and family and the people that you have in your life. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for listening. And if you like this video and this topic, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.